Hello people, welcome to the channel. And today I got a lovely PowerPoint presentation prepared for you guys. Lovely alliteration. And I'm going to tell you some UFC fighters that I personally really enjoy and why. Now, I forgot to put it in the first slide of this presentation, but this is active UFC fighters only. And this could be for literally fucking any reason I want, because I think they got a fucking Chad hairstyle, or I like the way they fight, or I just like them as a dude, or I think they're funny. I'm just gonna tell you all the dudes or girls I like in the UFC. Alright, first things first, I'll show you my honorable mentions. Alright, I'm not gonna spend too much time on these guys here, but Kevin Holland, I mean, I love how active he is. He's hilarious. I think he's actually really talented, really good striker. Pretty good jiu-jitsu too. I think he's like a brown belt in jiu-jitsu or something. He might be a black belt, I'm not 100% sure. But he's pretty good. Just took a loss to Jack Della, but I mean, Jack Della's a savage. And he can't really make up his mind between 185 and 170, but I mean, I think he's built way better for 170. I mean, he's just a little skinny and scrawny for 185. If he could find a home at 170, I know he likes to, eat steaks and have sex to make weight, but if he'd be willing to cut the weight to 170 and really put his mind to it, I mean, I could see legit top 10 potential in him, but I don't think he's gonna really like take title. I can't speak today. Title aspirations that serious, you know. But you know, you can't force title aspirations on people. Moving on, Brandon Moreno, former flyweight king. How do you not like this guy, man? I mean, builds Legos in his off time, you know. Absolute killer in the cage, hell of a striker, killer on the ground, will choke you out. Mexican, I don't know, how do you not like this guy, you know? And moving on to Zhang Weili. Now, Zhang Weili is just, she doesn't speak much English, you know? I think she's very likable when she does, you know, I forget what pay-per-view that was, but when she was like, I'm so happy to be here. I think it was Boston. Was it the co-main event to Sean O'Malley Aljo? I think so. But she tries to be exciting on the mic. I love it. She's a really exciting fighter. Absolute savage. I can see her reigning in the strawweight division for a pretty decent amount of time, and I just love Zhang Weili. She just missed out on the list. I'd say if I had to pick between the three, she's probably number 6. All right, moving on to the actual list. At number 5, Jack Della Maddalena. This guy, I think he's going to be a problem at 170. I mean, such crisp striking. I mean, boxing specifically, he just comes forward, high guard, and just swings these free-flowing combinations. I think he hits really hard for 170. I mean, I thought he hit a little bit harder before the Kevin Holland fight, but he still was throwing bombs in that fight. I think Kevin Holland was just his hardest opponent yet. But I don't know. As you can see, I don't know if I can see a title in the cards for Della. I can kind of picture him taking, like, because Wonder Boy is really old, I picture him taking like a Wonder Boy spot in like the 7 through 4 or 5 range, where he just becomes like a gatekeeper there, but he can't quite make that hop up to title contention. You know, if he gets a title shot and say someone like Leon is still there, I think Leon absolutely eats him alive with the kicks, and I don't think there's any grappling to be said about Jack Della versus Leon Edwards. If by the time he would get a title shot at someone like Shavkat Rakhmonov, I think Shavkat puts away Jack Della in 1 round. But I do love Jack Della's fighting style. I think he has a bright future at 170. And I'd love to see where time takes him, man. I just think he's so fun to watch. And I can picture him having a really good highlight reel for the next couple of years of just some absolutely savage knockouts. Moving on to a little bit of a bandwagon pick nowadays, but Deshaun Strickland. I mean, I'm an Izzy hater. Do not like the guy. So you knew he was going to be on the list, you know. I really only started to like I've known about Sean Strickland for a while, of course. I watched his Jared Cannonier fight. That was a razor close fight. I still scored it for Cannonier, but with the Abus fight, when he put Abus away in the 2nd round, I really took a liking to Sean Strickland then. And then when DDP fumbled the bag on that title shot, I mean, he was injured. I mean, what was he going to do? But Sean Strickland took that title shot and fucking ran with it. I mean, who would have thought 6 months ago that Sean Strickland is the middleweight champ? But he got in Izzy's cozy little dog-licking head rent-free and beat the shit out of him for 5 rounds. Well, 49-46, but there is an argument to be made that it was a 50-45. I scored a 49-46 when I was watching it, but I've seen people on Twitter saying 50-45, and I don't hate it. I mean, I really don't hate it. And I seen the photos and a little bit of training footage of him training with Poatan leading up to 293, just for the extra push to batter the Jesus out of Izzy. You know, he says some wild stuff, so I can see how people don't like him. I don't really, take him that seriously, but I think he's funny and he's entertaining. And listen, if you beat Adesanya, I'm a fan of you. I mean, Alex Pereira, if this was a top 10 list, he's probably on there. And if this was a top 15 list, Jan Blachowicz might even make the list, So yeah, Deshaun Strickland coming in at the number 4. Moving on to my favorite looking guy, in the UFC. At number 3, Yuri Prochazka. I mean, arguably the most Chad haircut beard style combo in UFC history. I mean, that samurai top knot with the thick bushy beard. I mean, he's terrifying looking. He's fucking horrifying looking. Imagine being across the octagon from this fucking guy. He's weird and unorthodox, and he's just fun to watch, man. And I mean, you see the videos online of him like training in the woods and punching trees and swinging swords and shit. I mean, imagine that he walks up to Alex Pereira in November with a fucking sword. It's game over. But he beat Glover for the title. Absolute war. One of my favorite fights of all time. I thought Yuri was on skates a couple of times. I thought he was going to lose, but gets the rear naked choke. Gets the finish. Absolute war. Love it. And, this is partially just because I like the way he looks, but no, I just really like the weird, unorthodox fighting style he got. And I don't know why. I know Alex Pereira got absolute dynamite in that left hook and everything, but I can just see him beating Pereira. And, I'll do a full video on that fight, predicting it and breaking it down and everything, but I just really like Yuri Prochazka. I do. And he's probably the one I have the least to say about, because it's kind of just, I like the way he looks and I like the way he fights. As simple as that. Moving on to my number 2 spot. Number 2 and number 1 have been favorites of mine for a while. Number 2, Max Blessed Holloway. I mean, where do I start with this guy? I mean, he's a top between 10 and 20 fighter of all time. I'm going to do a video on that eventually, but I'd be comfortable saying maybe top 15 fighter of all time. Definitely a top 3 featherweight behind Volkan Aldo. And he's just one of the best lower weight division fighters of all time. I mean, below 170, I mean, I'd have to think about it, but top 10 for sure. Top 10, definitely. It's just such a fun striker to watch. He beats the shit out of most people he fights. Everyone but Volk. Everybody but Volk, really. Self-proclaimed best boxer in UFC. One of my favorite clips ever. I mean, everyone loves that. Everyone just gun it up. Best boxer UFC, baby. I mean, everyone loves that. I mean, him showing Ortega how to block a 1-2. I mean, how good do you have to be, or how bad does Ortega have to be in the striking to be able to do that mid-championship fight? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, knocked out the Korean Zombie and got on the mic after and said, make some noise. This man's a fucking legend. Louder. Like, this guy is so likable. How do you not like Max Holloway? Everyone likes Max Holloway. This is a very crowd-friendly pick, admittedly. But, and I mean, he is right there in title contention when Volk inevitably goes to 55. Because I think Volk got Ilia Topuria. He'll probably beat Ilia Topuria and then move up to 55. And if he doesn't beat Ilia Topuria, there will be an immediate rematch and then he'll go up to 55 then. So, yeah, Max Holloway. Moving on to number 1, Islam Makhachev. I mean, there's a little bit of, I guess, Dagestani bias in this one because Khabib was my favorite fighter of all time. And I know here's the casual comments flooding in, but the first time I really, not the first time, but like the fight that really got me into UFC was Khabib versus Conor. So I just fell in love with Khabib because I couldn't stand Conor. I still can't stand Conor. You might find that out in some other videos. But yeah, Khabib was my favorite fighter. When he retired and Islam came about, I started watching Islam right from the beginning, watched him go from contender to champion, and I think the guy's hilarious, bro. Like the black belt, who give? We must check this bit out there. Like, he's hilarious. I love him, and I'd love to see him beat the shit out of Charles Oliveira again this coming October. You'll see a prediction video on that coming out. I loved his fight against Volk, despite it scared the hell out of me. It was really close. I scored it 3-2 Islam, but it was a razor close fight. I just think Islam got the better out of a lot of the exchanges, had a lot of good grappling, a lot of good control time, and it was just it was a war, absolute war. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like I have the least amount to say about my favorite fighter, but Islam, I mean, his broken English, Russian accent just makes everything hilarious. I mean, what can I say? I mean, him just calling everyone brother is just so funny. No, go sleep, brother. It's just, no, just, he's not on my level, brother. He's so funny. He's so funny. And I know it's becoming a bit unpopular now to say I think he'll beat Charles. I mean, I know Islam's the favorite, but I'm seeing a lot of people saying Charles is going to make the proper adjustments. And for me, I mean, I think Islam will reign over the lightweight division for a pretty good amount of time. I mean, I love Islam, but I also think he might, on a kinda not really, duck Volk, because I think he might, when Volk beats Topuria and comes up, he might go and fight Colby Covington and become a double champ himself. And honestly, Islam's big enough that I could see him sticking at 170 and trying to do some damage there, especially because it'll be more of a challenge for him. But yeah, that's the list, guys. That's my top 5 current favorite fighters in the UFC. If you like this video, go check out some more on the channel. Drop a like and subscribe. And thank you guys so much for watching. Go sleep.